I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and coming up next on WAYOLP Rochester's The Sound of Tomorrow, where we've got some good news. We're going to be talking about food, and we are going to be talking a little bit about Dr. Seuss. Probably some other stuff. I don't know. Who knows? Why would I know? I don't know. But first.
Heather, I'm so pleased. I've had a real breakthrough.
You have? Did you finally figure out the perfect formula for your famous blueberry bread?
Okay, well, yes, that too, and I'll drop some off on your porch later, as promised. But no, remember saying how I've been working on my writing again?
How could I forget? The Adventures of Heather Zykowski, Girl Cowboy.
Exactly, and I should say, thank you for your pointers. I fact-checked you, and it is dogies, not doggies, which does elevate my work.
Hey, I am glad to help.
Verisimilitude. But the exciting development I've had is the opportunity to work with one of the most famous Western genre authors of all time.
Ooh, is it Asa Papadopoulos?
Who?
Author of The Windswept Plateau.
No.
Okay, is it Shawnee Shakti?
Who?
Author of Her Golden Spurs.
Nope.
OMGP, not Rakesh Lalam.
Who?
Author of Chuckwagon Blues.
Okay, Heather, as you well know, I have at times been an avid user of my subscription to liveandlisten.com and their Western forum, Saddle Up Boys. The most famous Western authors are all on SUB. That's how we, in the know, refer to Saddle Up Boys, and I don't recognize any of these names nor titles.
Yeah, no, I was totally making them up so you could feel like the ill-read one for a change.
I understand. You're defensive about how you've read, as far as I understand, approximately 2 books in your entire life, while I am extremely well-read, and also you're jealous of how I now have deep connections with the most famous authors, spanning genres. I might add, not just Westerns, though those are my focus at the moment, via liveandlisten.com. So you lash out, which is very like you.
Okay, that's accurate. Sorry, I thought I was just having a little fun.
No, that's fine. But you say you made up the title Her Golden Spurs?
Yeah, just off the top of my head. Hey, what are you writing down? Are you writing down Her Golden Spurs?
Anyway, as I was saying, I've had a really exciting few weeks here because I met, get this, Russell Mcrealy, and he's been mentoring me.
Oh, that is so awesome. But okay, I'm not even joking here. Russell Mcrealy.
Okay, yes, of course. Russell Mcrealy, author of legendary works such as The Named Horse.
The Maned Horse?
No. The Named, like the horse has a name.
Oh, is it a play on that song? I drove through the valley on a horse with no name. Meow, 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 never caused me no pain.
It is, but those are not the words to that song.
Are you sure?
Actually, I'm not. No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you knew all the songs, though. Songs are your thing and not books.
I know enough songs, but I just never got into that one.
Okay, fair. But yes, it's a play on the song.
So, Ruskin McCrae.
Russell Mcrealy.
Okay, right. The book is about a horse with a name.
Yes.
What's the horse's name?
It's Stephanie.
That's cute. Maybe I'll read that one.
If you do, you're going to want to read Russell Mcrealy stuff, and you are in for a treat. The 20-minute beans, what a romp! And I just couldn't put down my grandpappy's fiddle.
Wow, that sounds real homey. But wait, so, okay, geez, Rorschach McManus. No, this author, anyway, you met him on Saddle Up Boys.
SUB.
Yes, you met him on SUB, and now he's mentoring you?
Here's the best part, Heather. You'll be so pleased. I did not meet my new mentor, Russell Mcrealy, on SUB, nor any of the other Live and Listen fora.
Oh, really?
Yes, you see, after our episode aired where I debuted my new project, Heather Zykowski, Girl Cowboy, he heard it and he got in touch with me.
Wow, he heard our show? But wait, I didn't see anything come into jimmyspaceboy@gmail.com.
No, he liked my work so much he tracked down my personal contact info and got a hold of me directly. Come to think of it, he did say something about how he didn't want to use our shared email address in case you got jealous and deleted his message before I saw it.
Ross, I would never.
I know, and I
would never.
I told him that. But he was just being extra cautious. You know, you can't blame a man of his stature for that.
I don't like it when people who don't know me speak. I can speak. I can speak. See, I'm so upset. I was going to say, I don't like it when people who don't know me put my name in their mouth like that.
Okay, you need to calm down and get your speeches back. He also said he quite appreciates how you're my muse. He even asked for a photo and said you don't look a day over 52.
Hey!
It was a compliment. He thinks you're 54.
And I think I'm not buying his book about Stephanie after all.
God, you are so petty.
And you love it.
I do, kind of. I do, yeah.
Okay, though. So
True.
Randall McCafferty slid into your DMs and what?
Russell Mcrealy. And Heather, the advice he's given me, the wise words and counsel, it has changed everything for me. I can't even begin to tell you all he's done. How I've grown. Here, listen to this. Can I just read you what I've got so far for chapter 2 of The Adventures of Heather Zykowski, Girl Cowboy, and you can hear it for yourself. You can. I mean, it just reads off the page. It blows, explodes.
And sure, yes, I'm excited for you and excited to hear what you've got. And also, as usual, I have nowhere else to be, so hit it.
You're going to be so impressed. The bulbous moon hung full and bright in the sky like the wheel of saffron-hued cheese Heather Zykowski, Girl Cowboy, had procured from Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store just that afternoon. The Girl Cowboy gazed upon it fondly as she lounged casually on her camp stool, also procured from that very same establishment, as she eyed and prodded her modest campfire. For a mild night it was upon the steppes of Penfield, and no great conflagration was needed to warm her tired, aged bones.
I like this new accented reading that you're doing. It lends a real air of authenticity. I'm impressed, but also Penfield?
Yeah, Penfield, but it's in the South somewhere. I haven't decided that yet.
Penfield, like the town where I grew up.
Okay, do you even need to ask me these questions?
Okay, yeah, just go on then.
Yeah. Straightening her old sore back, the Girl Cowboy shifted a gentle prairie breeze, ruffling the hem of her glittering gingham dress to reveal a hint of delicate lace-edged bloomer. Both dress and undergarment having been purchased from the women's department at Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store some years past, but due to surpassing quality and craft personship, showing few hints of wear. Lined eyes. Okay, question. Does that make it sound like she's wearing eyeliner, though? Because what I'm really referring to is the lines around your eyes, like the wrinkles, specifically like the crow's feet and things, and not makeup. So I just want to know what is that coming through? Right.
Excuse me?
Got it. Yeah. Okay. I'll ask my mentor about that. No problem.
Better choice. That's better choice.
Lined eyes, crinkling crow's feet corners. Yeah. Okay. No, that definitely sounds like wrinkles, not makeup. So that's all right. I like that. I'm good with that. Yeah. Okay. See, working through these things really helps me.
Yeah. Sure. Go on. Just go on.
Lined eyes, crinkling crow's feet corners. The Girl Cowboy smiled, thinking of the kind and gentle proprietor of Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store, old Uncle Russ. A stoic and fine man, getting on in years, yet still straight of back, clear of eye, and he even still had all his teeth. Soft joy lingered upon Heather Zykowski's full carmined lips as she recalled her time with old Uncle Russ earlier that day, when her loving and beloved mama, the famed beauty, Mrs. Zykowski, was her name, had informed her that tonight, this very night itself, the Girl Cowboy would be making her first solo foray into the mesa to test her mettle as a true cowboy. The aged girl's heart was filled with dread, but the moment her point-toe supple boot thumped upon the floor of Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store, she knew she would be in good hands, both literally and figuratively. Nothing at all?
You're telling me a 54-year-old cowboy has never made her own campsite?
She's just a girl, Heather. a 54-year-old girl.
Oh my God, I'm so tired. Just read, it's fine.
The door of Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store jingled merrily as Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, timidly entered. Of course, she'd had occasion to partake of the wide array of women's fashions from ranch to office to evening to bedtime? Bedtime, like that, yeah. Offered by Uncle Russell's tack feed and general store. But never had she been tasked with preparing her own proper cowboy campground. Much to her relief, Uncle Russ greeted her with a genial, "Well, hello, little lady. What can I help you with today?" And as Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, eagerly confessed to her nervousness, the fine gentleman, offering her a stick of penny candy free of charge, volunteered to be her guide in all things cowboy. Campsite, for he was cowboy camp. Volunteered to be. I'm just going to do that again. Volunteered to be her guide in all things cowboy campsite, for he was well equipped to make her a very fine home on the range.
Where is this going? I'm confused. I mean, the girl cowboy was out on her first solo camping trip and now she's just shopping?
Just listen. You're so impatient.
Okay, all right.
The kindly Uncle Russ, owner of Uncle Russell's Tech Feed and General Store, took the girl cowboy around his modest emporium, pointing out all that she would need for her venture. "Now, this here's a flint. You ever seen a flint before? It works like this," he said, showing the delighted girl how sparks were flying. "And this is a tent, and you'll need some firewood. That's what you use to make a fire. Wood. Interesting, right?" Heather Zykowski's eyes widened with surprise. A fire? Wood? Such matters were generally handled by her strong and handsome father, Mr. Zykowski. You're so just so you're really never going to tell me your parents' actual names, right?
Never. Never.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, all right. Okay, so it's just how it's going to be then.
Yeah.
Such matters generally handled by her strong and handsome father, Mr. Zykowski, and the girl cowboy, though skilled in tending and handling her beloved steed, the noble Nigel, he of alabaster fur and piercing yellow eyes, gladly left the men's work to the men. Until today, as he rang up her goods, friendly and approachable Uncle Russ, owner of Uncle Russell's Tack Feed and General Store, chuckled. "Well, I guess you'll also want some of that real good, feel good stuff for your first night out, huh?" And though Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, generally bought her real good, feel good stuff at Auntie May's liquor lot. And though Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, generally bought her real good, feel good stuff at Auntie May's liquor lot, a far inferior shop run by Uncle Russ's ex-wife May, she happily agreed to sample Uncle Russ's premium stuff. "Wow!" she rasped upon her first sip. "Your ex doesn't carry anything like this. I should have been shopping here at Uncle Russell's Tack Feed and General Store all along." The handsome shop owner smiled. The girl cowboy collected her bags and gigglingly accepted a kiss on the cheek and a pat on the bottom from sweet Uncle Russ. As he clanged open the door for Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, relating her surprisingly supple, given her advanced age arms were with parcels, she turned. Standing close and simpering sweetly, she uttered, "Oh, Uncle Russ, I don't know what I would have done without you. Because of you, I'll be as fine as American apple pie on my scary journey tonight. Thank you for serving me and the whole town of Penfield so faithfully for all these years." Uncle Russ, in his still virile masculinity, was able to both hold the door and tip his debts into the girl. "It was my pleasure, Heather. It was my pleasure." He hated to see Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, walk away, yet he loved to watch her leave, and admiring the firm curve of her backside and mincing step as she balanced on stiletto cowboy heels, he thought, well, Everyone in Penfield knows Heather Zykowski, girl cowboy, has stars in her eyes over that ranch hand Ross Johnson. He of Chalcedony Eye and vintage 1974 Ford pickup truck, candy apple red Texas plates. But I have a feeling I'll be seeing that girl again soon at Uncle Russ's Tack, Feed, and General Store. So what'd you think?
Oh, was that it?
Yes, I'm so pleased.
Ross.
Is this the time for you to be searing and mean?
Well, no, yes.
And old?
But no. Ross, I don't revel in this, but I think that Russell Mcrealy.
You got his name right.
I did. While you were reading, I was doing a little bit of light Googling.
Yeah, you weren't listening with your full attention?
I heard enough. But what I think is that Russell Mcrealy just tricked you into doing a big ad for his store.
What? No! Russell Mcrealy is a famed author and no mere shopkeep.
Hey, being a shopkeep is cool. But it turns out Russell Mcrealy, author, really does own a general store outside Boulder City, Nevada, where they make those Fisher space pens, hence the name Penfield. Russell, yeah, he owns the store, and he owns Uncle Russell's Tack, Feed, and General Store, which at the moment is facing a buyout by Auntie May's Liquor Lot, which frankly is doing a lot better than the general store seems to be. From what I can find, failing because the owner is a jerk and they never have anything in stock.
No.
I know. I'm sorry.
So he wasn't really mentoring me at all along.
I'm so sorry. I think he just wanted some good press for a change. And I think he has a really creepy thing for me.
Oh, he definitely has a thing for you. But it's sweet and nice.
Ugh.
He asked for more pics, by the way. Is it okay if I send him photos from our last beach trip?
Ross!
I already did it. So
why?
Like,
it's total creep. You should see the Yelp reviews.
He's subscribed to your OnlyFans, so it's not like, he's gonna get it anyway. Anyway, he can get it. He's gonna take it.
It's gross. I don't like it. Gross.
I say take the money and run, but do what you got to do.
Hey
everybody, I'm Ross Johnson. Hey everybody, I'm Russ Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I am Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power.
Let me tell you, let Heather, you know what, I'm tired. Let Heather tell you what we're doing here today.
You're listening to The Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO-LP Rochester, and we're going to be talking about a lot of really fun and interesting stuff, because that's how we do.
That's how we do. We have it's another cornucopia. It's it's another horn of plenty. Can I say horn on the radio?
Yes, no? You can.
Is that all right?
Honk, honk.
Right, good. Can I refer to horn of plenty? Good.
You can.
Because it's drive time, so I don't know what's legal or not. I don't know the law.
Does anybody drive anymore?
I think that's all they do. They just don't go anywhere.
But they're still driving, huh?
They're still driving. They're still getting somewhere. Should we start out on a positive note?
Yes, let's start out on a positive note. I like it.
By start out, I mean 20 minutes in, because that's how we do. So
yeah.
There is new. Our listeners will probably have seen this, because it is just the biggest news this side of the Mason-Dixon line, and also the other side of the Mason-Dixon line, and also sort of
all
east
sides.
And west as well of the Mason-Dixon
north and south. Don't you forget
line. Right, but I mean, it's north and south are already implied, with the Mason-Dixon line.
I don't want to exclude them.
To say both sides of the Mason-Dixon line and also north and south of the Mason-Dixon line is sort of it's frankly it's dumb. But so,
I mean, yes, and frankly I'm dumb.
Yeah. Agreed. So I believe you were looking at NPR. I was looking at AP, but we've got some finally. Cool. We have been on top of. I will pat us on the back just a little bit, because we have been on top of COVID for over a year now. Yeah. And I will never stop pointing out how we were talking about COVID before the president was talking about COVID.
It's
the previous
bizarre
president.
that a couple freaking lousy podcasters were like, oh, there's a thing. We don't know how bad it is, but it's definitely coming. We were like a month ahead of the US government acknowledging it.
Yeah, and not because we were psychic or guessing
No.
or doing our own research, because we were actually following the science and the news about this 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 pandemic that had already started elsewhere in the world, was already big news elsewhere in the world, and was moving this way. So anyway,
Yeah.
so I feel good at this point of bringing this up because I don't know that there's been a ton of good news about it to do with
Mm,
uh, COVID. I mean, the beginning of the vaccine process was obviously a good thing. So,
yes.
new guidance from the CDC just out Monday, March 8th. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Fully vaccinated Americans. So, if you're one of those Americans who's been lucky enough to get fully vaccinated, which they define as having both of your shots, and then 2 weeks have gone by. So,
Mm-hmm.
you get shot A, and then however long you have to wait until shot B.
Two
And
weeks, I
then,
think.
okay, so then you wait 2 weeks after that. That's
Yeah.
what they define as fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated Americans can gather with other vaccinated people indoors without wearing a mask or social distancing.
Yes,
That's
indeed,
according
they
to the
can.
CDC.
According to the CDC, these fully vaccinated Americans can also visit with unvaccinated people from a single household who are at a low risk for severe COVID-19 disease indoors without wearing masks or physical distancing.
Yeah, which I would still be worried about that if I were someone. But
Mm, I don't
so if you
know.
had, so an example they give is vaccinated grandparents visiting their healthy children and grandchildren. That would be an
Mm-hmm.
example of a thing you might do.
Yep.
The CDC still recommends that you continue in any other circumstance to wear your masks and avoid large gatherings and physically distance yourself out in public, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know who's out there. Those people are gross. They don't even wash their hands. Have you seen those people? They don't even wash their hands. I have,
Well,
over the past year, encountered people who don't even wash their hands, even when other people are in the bathroom. Still,
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 yeah, I know.
even
I
even in the
know.
middle of this.
Yep. And I I had this thought kind of at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was like, wash your hands. I did have a glimmer of hope. I was like, people will finally start washing their hands. And then at some point, some months in, I was like, if people didn't wash their hands before, they're not washing their hands now.
Yeah, I'm not going to call anybody out here or be very specific about this circumstance, but I know on multiple occasions I encountered a support person who was working directly with cell phones and helping people with cell phones and things like that, who I would it's not like I'm sitting in the bathroom marking people down for not washing their hands, but
Mm-hmm.
noticed on more than one occasion just the person just walking by me without washing their hands. And
Yeah.
I thought, A, you should wash your hands in general, and B, you should wash your hands because we're in a pandemic, and C, you should wash your hands even if you're recalcitrant and not someone who is inclined to wash your hands, which you should be. But even if you're not, you should certainly do it when someone else is around, because
Right.
it apparently doesn't even occur to you that that is something that people would find tacky.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I was in any kind of public restroom where I would
Yeah.
be noticing whether other people were washing their hands or not. But pre-pandemic, I would notice, and I did even have that same thought like, I mean, okay, nobody's going to know if you're by yourself, but you realize you just walked by several people who are obviously making note like, oh, they didn't wash their hands.
It's again, I guess on a practical level, it sort of it doesn't matter if people are there or not there, but it always seems like a whole other level to me, even though it doesn't really make any difference in terms of what you're spreading. But it seems like a whole another level that isn't even occur to you to feel shame about the fact that you're not washing
Mhm.
your hands. you know, um, it goes beyond. I don't feel like washing my hands into. I don't even know that that's a thing. I'm not even
Right.
aware. I'm not even aware that that's a societal concern.
Right. It's very, very strange.
Wash your hands is our point. You're all disgusting. Where were we? Where were we with this?
We were talking about what fully vaccinated people are going to be allowed to do. So they're going to be allowed to have small gatherings, maybe see family, even if family is unvaccinated.
If they're in a low risk
And
category.
yes. Yeah. And it says here on my little list, fully vaccinated people can refrain from quarantine and testing following a known exposure to COVID-19 if asymptomatic.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
But like you were saying, the CDC is still recommending when you go out in public, wear a well-fitting mask and try to stay as far away from other people as possible. Don't take this as an excuse to start having like huge gatherings in person.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you are fully vaccinated and start experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, get tested.
Yeah. Well, and there's still not a lot of these vaccines seem to be working very well for the most part, but there are always exceptions. There are always individual exceptions to how well a vaccine does or doesn't work in an individual. And there's also not a lot of long-term data, which is not to say don't get the vaccine. Do not hear that when I say that. You should absolutely get the vaccine. Any vaccine they'll give you, literally any vaccine. I'll take any vaccine. I don't even care.
I know.
It doesn't even have to be a COVID vaccine. I'll take whatever you got. Really, if you've got some extra vaccine of anything, I'll take it. No problem. But
yep, I'm with you.
The CDC also has not changed its recommendations on travel. So unnecessary travel is still discouraged. So if you're thinking about going to visit your grandkids, you might want to reconsider that in the short term. And only about 9% of this is good. I mean, we're getting there. Don't get me wrong, but only about 9% of the population is in this fully vaccinated category at the moment. So there's still a long way to go. There is some talk about by May.
Yeah, by the end of May, I've heard news that there should be enough vaccine doses for every American citizen to have one. Well, have the set.
And then I guess we'll get into the issue of at some point, I guess the next worry for me, because let's not keep this too positive too long. What would people think? The next worry for me will be...
They would think they weren't listening to the Sound of Tomorrow anymore.
Correct. So the next worry for me would be, what about the people who are refusing to get the vaccines? I think, I don't want to single out anyone in particular, but just because I read this figure today, I think it's still about a third of Republicans, and again, I'm just throwing that out because that's just the data that I was looking at today in that particular category, are saying they will absolutely not get a vaccine under any circumstances. So I guess maybe come May, we'll start to be able to figure out, have we vaccinated enough people? It's definitely, as has been the case all along, this is definitely the weak links are the ones who are destroying the chain. I mean, it's been the weak links all along, the people who refuse to quarantine, refuse to wear their masks, refuse to take any basic precautions to save lives, that have been... We've already seen studies about the number of lives that have been lost, and it's huge. I mean, in the hundreds of thousands of lives that people that didn't need to die because of what I shall refer to now and forevermore as the weak links in our society, who refused to take the most basic measures to protect their fellow humans. So I guess we'll see come May, do we have enough people vaccinated where we can safely start to look at our civilization getting moving again, or are we going to be stuck? I mean, because it's possible. I mean, it's really possible that there are enough people that are going to refuse to get vaccinated, and we've talked about that. I mentioned Republicans, but there's a similar thing on the other end of the political spectrum, where you have, I only eat organic food, and it's these vaccines, are they gluten free? I'm not, but it's that sort of vibe. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You get sort of the hippie version of, oh, I won't put anything unnatural in my body, I'm not going to get a vaccine. Or mistrust of the government, or mistrust of pharmaceutical companies, things that are reasonable to a point. So that's the next big concern
Hmm.
is, are enough people going to get this shot? And I hope and think enough people will. I have to believe that, but I guess we'll see.
Gosh, I hope so. I really, really do. And I do wonder about, new requirements because I'm thinking about when I went to college and I went to a state school. And I know in order to go to a state school, I had to provide vaccination records.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be allowed to go. And
I
I
don't know.
wonder if that's going to be now you're going to have to provide for certain things, proof that you've been vaccinated against COVID.
I mean, I would think and expect so. On the other hand, we have a judiciary that's been an overwhelming portion of our judiciary has come into play, has stepped into their jobs over just the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are perfectly well qualified. A lot of them are not terribly well qualified. There are a lot of people with less judicial experience and more strong political opinions. So you get into that. You get into that individual freedom to the extreme type crowd.
Mm-hmm.
If someone sues and says, "I don't want to get a vaccine, how can you keep me out of college?" I don't know. I don't know what happens at that point. I don't know what happens at that point
Right.
legally. And
I
then
don't know
you
either.
wind up putting a whole campus at risk. So it's I think we have in a lot. I mean, we have. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat. We have made a mess of
Mm-hmm.
what was already going to be, what was inevitably going to be a bad situation. We have made an absolute mess of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to have some optimism that we will start cleaning up our mess a little bit, but it's hard to be too optimistic at this moment.
Right. Yeah.
But
It's
vaccines,
definitely vaccines. I love vaccines.
love them, love them, want them all.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to collect them. Yeah, I have a teeny tiny, like, how people get into doing those stock market apps, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I have a couple shares of a pharmaceutical company that works in vaccine development. And I was talking about it not too long ago. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if they're one of the ones working on a COVID vaccine. And then I realized, I was like, but that's fine. I can't think of any disease I like so much that I don't want a vaccine for it. So
Right.
really, whatever they're doing, I'm good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you can. It's it. It seems like we're so driven toward extremes. I think you can have some reasonable. I don't think you have to love pharmaceutical companies
Mm-mm. There's
to.
a lot of problems with big pharma, but there's
Absolutely,
some good.
absolutely.
There's some good.
Well, is the whole, is our whole system and the way these things are developed, is it ideal? Is it perfect? Is it good? No, not really. But nevertheless, there is a life-saving, I mean, there is a there is a vaccine that will save hundreds of thousands of lives,
Yes.
maybe more over time. I mean, if you compare it to
Right.
there not being a vaccine at all,
Hmm.
it would be a lot more than that. So I can still have my reasonable concerns, my reasonable and hopefully educated concerns about the pharmaceutical industry and our whole healthcare system and the way these things are developed and the way things are priced and the way things cost.
Hmm.
And also say, I will take some of that vaccine, please.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Yes.
there's, there's the house is on fire. I might not love the company that made the fire extinguishers, but I'm going to go ahead and use the
Right.
fire extinguisher.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yep. That wouldn't stop me for one moment.
And I think to some extent, if you have hesitation about these things, I mean, I always try to think through when when I'm particularly suspicious about something. I always try to think about the motive. Um, it's certainly possible. I mean, it's not impossible that pharmaceutical companies would try to fast track these vaccines and take shortcuts and cause potential dangers. We haven't seen any of that. These things have been, they're relatively new. They've been very well studied. They've been given to an awful lot of people, even though it's not nearly enough
Hmm.
at this point. But they've been given to an awful lot of people. But you also think it doesn't benefit for a pharmaceutical company to make a vaccine that's going to then kill a whole bunch of people.
Right.
They don't benefit from that either.
Mm-mm.
And again, it's not that no companies ever cut corners and thought they could get away with it, but with something so big and so visible, one of the things that allays my concerns is the fact that there's absolutely no benefit to a pharmaceutical company with so many eyes on them and so many.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are waiting for. We've seen there have been a couple of cases have been in the news of, oh, somebody got this vaccine and then they had a probably completely unrelated health condition, because if you vaccinate millions of people, there are going to be
Right.
people with other health conditions going on.
Oh,
The
yeah.
vaccine doesn't make you immune to everything.
Right.
So, um, and I can think of like two cases in the news of people who had, and I think in both cases the people who were the subject of the stories were saying, no, I don't blame the vaccine for this at all. This is totally unrelated. But there was
Mm-hmm.
so much. There were so many big headlines, and this woman got the vaccine, and then 2 days later she got this thing, and the vaccine probably gave her this thing. There were so many hysterical headlines.
Right.
I would bet that the companies that are making the three biggest vaccines, certainly, um, I would bet they really don't want there to be any issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I would bet they're going to be, if anything, extra careful. Again, I don't put my trust in them as necessarily as corporate good citizens, but I put my trust in
Mm-hmm.
their capitalist desire to not have their company, wind up in front of a firing squad because they created a vaccine that did more damage than good when everybody's looking really hard.
Yep. Yeah, I'll say my concern with getting the vaccine is how fast can I get it?
Right.
When am I
Absolutely.
ready? When's my turn? Like, I am super duper concerned with, like, yes, get me in. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, how could you not be? I mean, I know there are people who've been living their lives coughing on everyone, not washing their hands, running around in public. So, I mean, maybe those people aren't concerned because they don't care. They're in low
Yes,
risk
I think you are right
categories.
about that.
They're in low risk categories, so they've not gotten sick, or they've gotten sick and it's not been a big thing, because that's going to be the case for most people. But with the large enough numbers in our society, that that low percentage of people who get sick and that low percentage of people who die winds up to be a huge number of people. So
Oh,
there are people that
absolutely.
are out there living their lives that probably don't care one little bit about the vaccine because they're fine, and why would they care about anybody else? Everybody else,
Yep.
I oh my gosh, just do it, please, please, and I'll do it. I'll do it right away. I'll do it
Yes,
today. If you got some
I'll
vaccine
do it
for me,
as soon
anybody
as
out
I
there,
can.
I will take your black market back alley vaccine. Even I don't care. I won't really. Don't. I mean, I don't want that. You know. But
Yeah, I probably don't want that. I mean, I do want it like authorized.
I want from a
Yeah,
from a reputable
I'm on the social
injector.
medias like everybody else, and I do have a couple of social media people that I know. Um, One of whom, like I knew in real life many years ago, and we were somewhat close. And that person is doing the entire thing where nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Going out every weekend, having huge parties, dinner parties, you know, groups of friends, going to crowded clubs, and also posting pretty vehemently about it.
Yeah.
And like, we're here loving life and living life. You can't stop us from living and loving life. And it's, I don't know, it's definitely,
I don't know how killing people becomes. I guess you can spin anything, right? I guess you can spin anything in your own head. We're all the heroes of our own
yeah,
stories. Um, the idea that I don't care how many people die, that I can continue to do the stuff I feel like doing, and you can't stop me no matter how many people die.
right.
That
How is that loving life?
that's somehow a virtue statement of look how. And I don't know. I like I said, I guess you can spin anything. Um,
Yeah, you definitely can. It's really strange. And it is always interesting to see how someone can change over the years. because I don't
Right.
remember this person being like that when I knew them. I mean, it was a long time ago, like a decade.
Yeah.
But to see these kinds of things, I'm like, I either never knew them or they've changed an awful lot.
Right.
But it is kind of like you were saying, it's just such strange rhetoric of, I'm going to do what I want. I'm not shutting anything down. I'm going to not take any of the precautions to protect anyone or myself or my family or my loved ones or anything from a disease that could be potentially lethal.
Well, and it's not, I mean, I don't know at this point who doesn't know people who have died. I guess, 500,000 people out of just in the United States, by the way. We don't talk about the global numbers, which are, I think, something like 2.5 million people who've died,
Mm-hmm.
plus the people who've gotten sick with complications, all that sort of stuff. So maybe 500,000 people doesn't sound like a lot to you. That sounds like a lot to me.
Sounds like an awful lot.
But I don't know who at this point doesn't know someone who's gotten sick or know someone who's died. I certainly do.
I
Multiple people.
do.
And I guess part of it is there's an inability to, I think, and maybe this is our education system, but to be able to understand your impact as part of a civilization, as part of a larger ecosystem, to be able to understand how your actions impact the world around you without necessarily being able to see them. I mean, yeah, I don't go to the store, cough on someone, and that person drops dead.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling there'd still be people saying, well, I'm going to cough on people if I want to because it's my freedom. But
Mm-hmm.
there's not that direct one to one. Every unnecessary risk you take, it nudges up a little lever somewhere, a little percentage that someone else or you could get sick, and that someone or you could die.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see it right away. It doesn't happen right away. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily happen. It doesn't necessarily happen in front of you. It might be someone in your family weeks later. It might be someone down the street. It might be
Mm-hmm.
something that gets passed along across town. I mean, it could be. So for some reason, people lack that, and maybe it's just human nature. People lack that ability to see, to understand that, to comprehend that. And I don't know what that is or how you get into people the idea that just because you can't see it happen immediately. I mean, it's almost a 3-year-old's way of looking at the world. Like, I closed my eyes and it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can certainly comprehend that. We think it's with the environment all the time. There are actions that I take that I I try to, I try to do as much as I can. I try to do what I can, but there are actions I take that have an impact on the global environment. And it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
my forgetting to take out my putting the plastic thing in the garbage can or whatever, whatever it is. I know there are issues with recycling and how much that actually does, but my, cranking up the heat and wasting that extra
Mm-hmm.
electricity. Yeah, it doesn't bring the tornado doesn't show up an hour later.
Right.
but but I can believe and trust that there are people who spend their whole lives looking at these issues, and people who've spent generations, I mean, generations of people have been looking at these issues and developing these science and going to school and getting up every day and doing it as a job and looking at these things. So I go, okay, you probably know what you're talking about more than I do. I don't have to agree with all of your conclusions if I'm hopefully a little educated and have the ability to say, well, maybe I don't know about that. But for the most part, I'm going, okay, you spent a lot of time on this. I'm not going to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. And maybe that makes us sheeple. Um, but sometimes I feel like I can listen to logic and I can understand when someone says, you have an impact in this way. So try not to do that because it's a bad impact. Somehow those things kind of make sense to me.
well, and it's not. I mean, people have responded to pandemics in a lot of the same ways historically, even before people understood the mechanisms. People kind of had a sense of. I mean, you can see what's happening. You can look at a broader scale when there have been pandemics in history. People kind of have had the thoughts about what about it and have taken some of the same actions because they can see, okay, there's something going on. I don't know what's causing it. I don't, our, our scientists don't have, we haven't invented microscopes, and we
Mm-hmm.
can't see the cause, but we can look at what's going on, and we can see that, oh, if we take these actions, so people, during the bubonic plague or any other plague, people, they had no idea what was causing it, but people knew,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we'll quarantine, we'll stay in our houses, or we'll separate, we won't get together, we'll cover our faces.
Yep.
I mean, even before people understood that breath, your breath could be something that carried the disease, people kind of got the idea that covering your face would help in certain circumstances. So, and my point with that all is you don't necessarily have to be a PhD who studies this every day to kind of look at what's going on and
Uh-huh.
be able to make some educated decisions that, again, you don't need to sit there with a microscope and come to understand all this 100% without being able to look at the evidence, look at what the experts are saying, and put your own general common knowledge, if you have any, I guess, into play to say, okay, this all makes sense to me. Everything, I'm listening to what they're saying, and also what they're saying makes sense. I get it. It's like the flat earthers. It's like, you can go check that out. You can literally go check that out, and people just don't, and they say, I don't know how people
Yeah.
could know the Earth is round. It's like, well, you could fly around the world. People go into
Yes.
space. I mean, people go into low Earth orbit, and you can see that there are a million ways to check it out, and they don't want to. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's just willful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So we're running a little low on time. I wonder if we should save talking about food till next episode and talk about Dr. Seuss, since
Dr. Seuss,
that is big hot news right now.
hot topic. So of course the Biden administration has decided, there was a bill passed by Nancy Pelosi and her cronies in the
Yes.
Democrat Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris is coming to your house, and she's collecting your Dr. Seuss books.
That's
It's
right,
basically
because
it's basically
the
the way I'm
Biden
seeing this reported.
administration has indeed officially canceled Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss is canceled. Thank
We're
you, Joe
sorry to
Biden.
say it.
Yep, he's
I think
coming
Barack
for your
Obama had something to do with it as well.
he's coming for your childhood. I'm sure Hillary Clinton was in there too. She does.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's not just making pizza all day.
She had the
She's
big red canceled stamp. Put it
she
right on
did.
that Dr. Seuss book.
She did. So of course, the the Dr. Seuss Trust has said that there are 6 Dr. Seuss books that will no longer be published. Now, first of all, what I think this is funny, because I was like, those are books. So 6 Dr. Seuss books. If I Ran the Zoo, McElligot's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, The Cat's Quizzer, and To Think that I Saw It on Mulberry Street, which is the only one I've actually heard of. The Dr.
I
Seuss.
think I had If I Ran the Zoo when I was a kid.
Okay, I
When the
I
image was described, I was like, I think I had that book.
I'm
Which
sure you
means
did.
my parents still have that book because they don't get rid of anything.
Well, they should think about eBaying it now. It's
I know
probably
they
worth some good
should.
money. Dr. Seuss Enterprises said they made this decision to pull these from publication after consulting educators and reviewing its catalog. They say the books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. So this was they further say ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment to our broader plan to ensure Dr. Seuss Enterprises catalog presents and supports all communities and families. The response to this is predictably stupid.
I know last week we were so upset about Mr. Potato Head and how he's no longer a boy. How dare they? How dare they try to
Well,
say a
it's
potato's not a boy? And this week, oh my gosh, Dr. Seuss canceled.
well, and a couple things. So this is the actual Dr. Seuss Enterprises, which is the Dr. Seuss trustee that runs Dr. Seuss stuff, apparently feeling that
Yes.
these books, and some of the images, by the way, I I was sort of vaguely aware that there was some weird stuff in some of the Dr. Seuss books. I didn't really have a strong sense of that, but some people actually did some of the images, and they are definitely they're a little rough. They're a
Yeah,
little hard to look at.
they
Um,
definitely are. And the thing with the people who are so upset about this so-called cancellation is it's not a cancellation. Nobody was clamoring for this. Nobody was calling for this. The Dr. Seuss people went, nah, we're not going to put these ones out anymore.
well,
And
and I
they're the
think
ones who get to decide what their company is going to do. No
well
one
that's it. Yeah,
screamed and yelled at them. They control their own things and they made a decision for themselves.
and it's yeah. Well, that's it. It's all about freedom until and capitalism until they do something we don't like. I mean, the thing is, books go out of print all the time. Nobody's coming and
Yes.
collecting these and setting them on fire. I'm sure I don't want to ascribe motives to Dr. Seuss Enterprises. However, I suspect that at least part of the conversation was, okay, we've got these books that are got some shady
Yeah.
drawings, some rough stuff going on next to other more popular books. How is this going to make us look over time? How is this going to
Yeah.
impact sales? There are a lot of Dr. Seuss books, so taking six off the shelf again. Some of these on Beyond Zebra as is a book apparently that I've never heard of.
No.
I don't think these are. I don't think these are the top sellers.
Yeah, this is not
So
green eggs and ham type territory.
right. So to for I assume my point there being I assume there was at least some discussion of how this impacts the bottom line, and
Mm-hmm.
presuming that over time this will impact the bottom. I mean, if Dr. Seuss Enterprises was going to expected to lose millions and millions of dollars over taking these books off the shelves, maybe they would still do it. I would suspect maybe not. I don't know anyone at Dr.
Mm.
Seuss Enterprises. I don't know what's on their brain, but my sense is that this was a decision that was made on behalf of the brand, on behalf of
Mm-hmm.
maintaining the legacy of the brand going forward into the future. So, of course, the I think it was there were just everybody. I mean, there were all sorts of Congress people, sort of the predictable usual types that were posting about this, and again blaming Joe Biden for some reason, and then
Yes.
pointing to a bunch of people were pointing to this jump in Dr. Seuss book sales that followed this as evidence that cancel culture doesn't work. Which actually, you're giving a lot of money to Dr. Seuss Enterprises, who are the people who made the decision to take the books off the shelf. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a term if you're running out to buy Dr. Seuss books specifically to get back at cancel culture. You're giving a whole bunch of money
Yeah.
to the people who just canceled Dr. Seuss. If that's your
Mm-hmm.
mindset.
Well,
It's
on
very
occasion that happens. Remember when people were mad at Nike, so they were cutting up their own clothes and shoes?
yeah, it's very stupid.
I mean, there's not always a lot of logic. It's like, wait, you already
No.
paid for that from Nike and now you just destroyed it. Like, what?
Well, and I'm all for again, books go out of print all the time. I'm all for things being available. I'm all for things being available to be seen in their context, but books go out of print. It happens. It happens all the time. And
Yes.
also, I think, it's not something like Gone with the Wind where it's got an adult audience. You can maybe provide a little context and people can look at the good and the bad and make a decision for themselves potentially. If you've got all these Dr. Seuss books lined up on the kids bookstore or in the children's section of the library, um, a little kid looking at one of these Dr. Seuss books is not going to be able to put that they're not going to be able to or the interest in putting that historical context into it. Like they're not looking at it in terms of, oh, this is an educational experience about how we used to draw certain
Mm-hmm.
types of people as monkeys instead of as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or other certain type of people only had pointy hats and yellow skin. So it it doesn't. I don't see much value.
Mm-mm.
um, Again, and nobody's coming to set them on fire or take your copies. Or these books have been in print for a million years. So even though I think there's been a spike on eBay and whatnot, there are going to be plenty of them if someone actually wants to study these books and
Mm-hmm.
get the historical context of what was going on and weigh the good and the bad of them. I don't think that's something a 4-year-old is going to be interested in doing.
No,
Um,
definitely not.
and I can see why if I were Dr. Seuss Enterprises, could see being concerned about you've got, oh, we brought home Cat in the Hat, and then we brought home this
Yes.
book with, again, people drawn as monkeys.
Right. No, I can definitely see it,
And having
because
a
if you're
parent,
buying books for kids, you go to the Dr. Seuss section, you might not even know what you're picking out if you're not familiar with them. So all of a sudden you've given your kid a book innocently too. Like you leafed through it, you're like, cute. If I ran the zoo,
right,
it's animals. Cute, cute, cute. And because it's ages 3 and up or whatever, it's been deemed appropriate for your child, then you gave it to your child.
yeah,
Yeah, I could definitely see people being less than pleased with that.
absolutely. So I have no issue with Dr. Seuss Enterprises' decision. Maybe if
No,
I
nor do I.
were more obsessed with Dr. Seuss and didn't have these books, maybe I'd be a little sad that they were hard to come by right now because I couldn't have them for my collection of knowledgeable adult Dr. Seuss review and putting things in historical context. But other than that, I really don't care. It's fine. I think it's
No,
probably
no,
smart on their it's probably smart on their behalf,
I think so. And I feel like they do control their content. They get to
and they're
make the
allowed to.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is all our time, everybody. Can
I
you believe
know,
it?
this is amazing. It went so
I can't believe
fast.
it. I know. I can't
So
believe
thanks
it.
everybody for tuning in. And as we say every single week, coming up next on WAYO LP Rochester is the fantastic program Music Matters. So stick around.
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh, it turns out you can order online at Auntie May's Liquor Lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is amazing. I didn't even know there were this many kinds of gin available in the US.
Take that, Uncle Russ.
I know. I am so supporting his ex wife. He's going to be steamed.